Oh, merry 10 days before Christmas, give or take a few depending how long it takes me to edit this video. Anyway, it's the holiday season, also known as the time of year when the blistering heat is replaced by an equally painful freezing cold, which serves as a constant reminder that things don't ever get better, they just get different. On that positive note, let's honor the winter holidays with a thematically appropriate video. Or whatever. Today we are going to be discussing ice levels in video games, because it is the only thing that I could think of. Often overlooked in favor of its perpetually moist older brother, the ice level has become a staple of the platforming genre and the gaming industry at large. Traditionally used to provide another serving of flavor to those sections that just need a little something extra, the average ice level can best be described as slippery. I mean, just look at Mario slipping and sliding around like a dumbass. For the most part, ice levels serve as an overarching additional challenge. By coating all interactable surfaces with a thick layer of slip-slop, developers have altered the game's physics, movement speed, and timing in a way that can serve as an increase in difficulty, a venture in speedrunning, or a combination of the two. Ice levels are often viewed as a negative in the gaming community, but from a purely game design standpoint, they can actually be very interesting, and they have a lot of potential. And it certainly doesn't hurt, but they are all gorgeous. Unfortunately, I'm not qualified to discuss games from a purely development standpoint, so here's the next best thing. The Super Mario Bros. Franchise is a series with a lot of ice levels. Ice levels in Mario games can be traced all the way back to Super Mario Bros. 2 on the NES. Did you know that Super Mario Bros. 2 was originally a game called Doki Doki Literature Club? Don't look that up. The average Mario ice level isn't anything particularly special. They contain all of the typical hallmarks of video game ice levels: slippery floors, weird physics, the winter aesthetic, and you might find the occasional unique enemy or ice skating or funny penguin suit, but for the most part, the only thing really differentiating Mario's ice levels from his normal ones is... whoa! Now that's not to say that the franchise is without unique ice levels. Cool Cool Mountain from Mario 64 has this absolutely bitchin' ice slide that ends with a crime. And Freeze Flame Galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy has a surprisingly unique aesthetic and a lot of really creative mechanics, like the smooth as butter ice skating and this Ice Mario power-up that recontextualizes a lot of the game's core mechanics the second you get it. So the Mario franchise can definitely get quirky with their frozen water levels, but it doesn't happen nearly as often as I'd like. Mario's ice levels can rarely be described as good ice levels. Rather, they are good Mario levels that happen to contain ice. But if you want a franchise that plays a little looser with their usage of ice-based mechanics, a certain freak of nature might have just the thing you're looking for. Crash Bandicoot is a series with a lot of infamous ice levels. In a franchise that prides itself on being tough, often to the point of being downright unfair, the added challenge of ice has led to some of the most infamously hated levels in video game history. But they're not all bad. Crash Bandicoot 2 in particular has some of my favorite ice levels. For the most part, the ice makes up a very small portion of the levels, only ever there to add layout diversity and small challenges to the level's overall design. It's very non-intrusive, and I think that makes it a lot better. And the levels themselves are just so damn cool. This one's got a section where you have to manage the slippery ice physics and navigate around a bunch of nitro boxes. Over here you got this sick little ice cave with falling icicles. This level has you running away from a giant snowball and dodging landmines and electric fences that you can't even see because of the camera angles. Whoever made this level is a fucking psycho. There's this one section where the ice wall forms a mirror and you can see your reflection as you die a grisly, painful death. Crash has this cute little idle animation where he shivers like a Californian at room temperature. My personal favorite level is the one where you jump on the back of this baby polar bear and ride it around at insane speeds, bringing the already dwindling population one step closer to extinction. Is this child abuse? Maybe. Is this animal abuse? Probably. Is it fun? Definitely. But does that make it okay? Well, in the eyes of the law, I don't actually know anything about the law, and my lawyer is only really qualified to talk about divorce.
Give your ex-wife everything you own.
Murphys and Sons, attorneys at law. We'll take any case, but divorce is our favorite.
Yeah, so Crash Bandicoot 2 is pretty fun, but if you want a platformer that really goes crazy with its ice levels, you gotta check out Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Now you'd think that a game called Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze would be one big ice level, but there's actually way less ice than you'd expect. The ice levels don't even make a single appearance until the very end of the game, but hot damn, do they almost make me wish this whole game was like this. Ice levels tend to get a bad rap because they are often used as a particularly uncreative method to create an artificial and often unreasonable difficulty spike. But the ice levels in Conky Dong Tropical Fropical just hit different. While most platformers seem content with simply slapping a wet, cold slip and slide all over the place and calling it a day, Seth Rogen and his furry family push the concept of an ice level to its breaking point. The ice isn't just there for a change in physics or to create a specific aesthetic, it invades every aspect of the level design. The platforms are all made of ice so they crumble under the weight of Donkey Kong's fat, voluptuous ass. The ice holding the vines and barrel cannons melt and crack, permanently changing the level's layout as you wander through it. Many of the stage's hazards are frozen solid, forcing you to break the ice in order to progress through the level. The momentum of the springs combined with the slipperiness of the ice to bounce the silly gorilla all over the place. There's this one level that takes place inside of a giant popsicle factory. The past few levels all build up to it, showing every step in the process that led to the creation of these popsicles. One level shows the baddies collecting the fruit, the next shows them transporting it, and then there's a level that shows them cutting and juicing it. And it all culminates into the level where the baddies freeze the fruit juice into popsicles. It's always really cool when a game's levels tell a story, and the decision to make an ice level themed around popsicles instead of just the traditional themes of generic ice and snow and winter is so creative. The ice levels in Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze have an incredible combination of new ideas that I've never seen before and old ideas with a unique twist. These levels are so good that I sometimes forget how angry they make me. You know, sometimes the casuals are right. Ice levels can be very annoying. Of course, platformers aren't the only games that include ice levels. For example, Pokemon is a turn-based RPG with some surprisingly good ice levels, if you're willing to stretch the definition of the word level. Often serving as one of the final challenges before the beginning of the endgame, the Pokemon ice levels usually take place before major turning points, like battling the Elite Four, challenging the last two gym leaders, catching the box legendary, or defeating the game's villain team. A couple of notable Pokemon ice levels include, but are not limited to, Ice Path in Gold and Silver, Route 217 in Diamond and Pearl, Bryson's Gym in Black and White, and the final route in Sword and Shield. The ice level routes tend to force the player to fight a seemingly endless number of ice-type Pokemon, which can get a little rough if you go in unprepared. Ice is a very strong offensive type with super effective attacks against several popular casual types. Now, Ice's defense is famously bad, which can make this a little easier, but when you're facing dozens of them in a row, their weak defenses kind of stop mattering. These routes also tend to include the weather hazard known as Hail. This is a battle mechanic that passively deals damage to all non-ice type Pokemon at the end of each turn. To an experienced player, Hail is a largely forgettable mechanic outside of competitive play, but to the young fans that make up the majority of Pokemon's audience, Hail can be a bitch and a half. And then there's Route 217, which takes everything I've already mentioned, prefaces it with a cave system, doesn't offer you very many opportunities to heal your Pokemon, and adds deep snow that is absolutely impossible to walk through, and a snowstorm that obscures the entire screen and makes it damn near impossible to avoid enemy trainers. Everything I have just mentioned is combined into Route 217 to create a level that is downright cruel in the best way possible. And I love it so much! And then of course there are the gym leaders. Over the course of the past 9 generations, there have been 6 ice-type gym leaders, meaning that 2/3 of the existing Pokemon games include an ice-type gym leader. Of the remaining 3 generations, 2 of them include ice trainers as members of the Elite Four. Clearly, someone at Game Freak really likes ice types, and frankly, I can't blame them. Ice types are pretty cool. If I ever make that joke again, I want you to put a bullet right between my eyes. The majority of the ice-type gym puzzles revolve around slipping and sliding on the ice before battling the gym leader, which makes sense given the theme. That being said, there are still 2 gems that really stand out to me. The Snowpoint City Gym from Diamond and Pearl, which is located in the center of a city shaped like a giant snowflake. Bro! And the Isurus City Gym from Black and White. The Snowpoint City Gym stands out to me because the puzzle was always super difficult to me as a child. As an adult, not so much. Nowadays, the most difficult part of this gym is remembering the gym leader's name. Do any of you know what her name is? Go ahead and let me know. Go ahead and comment this gym leader's name in the comments below. Go ahead, do it, type it, do it. And the Icer City gym is memorable to me because of this giant ice slide at the end of the gym. I was always so jealous of this as a kid. I wanted it so badly, and even as an adult, I'm still convinced that all of my problems would instantly be solved if I could just ride on this one time. Speaking of levels about frozen water, the snowman levels of the Katamari franchise are a personal favorite. Now, I know I talk about this series a lot, but for those of you who don't know, Katamari is a game about taking a little ball, rolling it around to make a bigger ball, and then turning that bigger ball into a star. How do you make the ball bigger? Why, by picking up literally everything you roll over. The snowman levels are basically the same thing, except now you're building a snowman that then gets turned into a star. You roll up the head, collect as much snow as you can, and push it onto the body. It's kind of like the snowman in Animal Crossing, except Animal Crossing doesn't let you make your snowman out of people. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Josh, this isn't an ice level, this is a snow level. And that is a very good point. I'm a big enough man to admit that. But have you considered shutting the fuck up? Alright, fine. You want actual ice levels? I'll give you actual ice levels. But this is going to be the last game I talk about today. Why? Because I'm lazy. Mario Kart is a racing game with a diverse selection of tracks. With this many courses from this many corners of the Mario universe, it's only safe to assume that there are going to be more than a few quality ice-themed levels. Now, we're only going to talk about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because that's the easiest game to record footage from, but the good news is, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has a bunch of levels from older games. So it's basically the same as talking about the franchise as a whole. Let's get to work. First up from the Wii U, we've got Mount Wario, and oh boy, I wish I could. But even though you can't, this is still a really cool stage. It's loosely based on a ski resort, which is not the first thing I think of when I hear the words racing game, but it works surprisingly well. You know, you start out by jumping out of a blimp, landing on the mountain, then you drive down the side of the mountain through a forest. There's this really cool cave section, and there's even some ice, so technically, it counts as an ice level. All in all, it's a very fun course with a very diverse layout and very interesting use of the winter theme. Next up, we've got Sherbert Land from the GameCube. This one is very cute and also very heavy with the ice theming. There's stacks of blocks holding up the fairy lights, there's this gorgeous ice cave that feels straight out of The Empire Strikes Back, there are holes in the track where you can drive under the ice, and there are these gorgeous ice pyramids and archways that I wish I could visit in real life. Truly the peak of igloo-based architecture. And then there's Animal Crossing, also from the Wii U. Now this stage is based on a completely different video game franchise, but I'm not quite sure which one. It's altogether a very cute stage, and driving through it never fails to brighten my day. The central gimmick of this stage is the fact that it can be themed to any of the 4 seasons, which is a very fun idea, and I wish that more courses had unique gimmicks that alter the overall aesthetic. In the winter, everything is covered in a thin layer of snow, all of the leaves have fallen off of the giant tree that serves as the course's centerpiece, there are snowmen everywhere, and the town is decorated in colorful holiday lights. It's all very fun and playful, but there really isn't much to say about this course in terms of being an actual ice level. Truthfully, the only reason this stage is even on the list is because a friend of mine said I had to include it. So there you go. If you're watching this, and I know you're not, thank you for ruining my video, dick. Snowland from the Game Boy Advance is another ice level that you can find in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now this one isn't anything particularly special. It hails from the era before Nintendo started going absolutely apeshit when designing every single Mario Kart course. And you can definitely tell that this is an older level, but it does have some fun ideas. A portion of this course is a partially frozen lake, which is a very cool idea, and if you look closely, you'll notice that the entire track is covered with a thin layer of ice. There's funny little penguins all over the place, which definitely win this course a couple of brownie points, and the giant crystalline ice mountains in the background are very pretty. But beyond that, there really isn't much to say. And after that, we've got Sky High Sundae from Mario Kart Tour. Now, I'm not sure if this one really counts because it's actually an ice cream level, but you can't say ice cream without ice. Or scream! Ah! Either way, this is a really fun and creative concept. I love the idea of a course made out of ice cream, and I'm really glad that the developers managed to make it look this good. It's very reminiscent of the racing game from Wreck-It Ralph, which is always a good thing, and I'm a very big fan of how bright and colorful everything is, especially in comparison to the traditional whites and blues of other cold-themed levels. All in all, it's a great level, and I'm really glad it's here. And finally, we have Merry Mountain. Also from Mario Kart Tour, it's the only course in the game that is overtly holiday themed, and it is possibly the coolest level on this list. The course has you driving through this gorgeous holiday themed Shy Guy village and past a workshop that I can only imagine belongs to Santa Claus, proving once and for all that he is absolutely real and the kids on the playground were just being dicks. The level itself is just so playful and magical. The cute little Shy Guy village is covered in decorations, the lights are held up by giant candy canes, there's giant presents everywhere, they've got a Christmas tree in the middle of town, Santa's workshop looks like a stack of presents, there's a flying train that resembles Santa's sleigh, they've got a ski lift that carries presents to and from the workshop. It's all just so colorful and magical and fun. Truly the perfect course to get you into that wonderful holiday spirit, and the perfect final level for us to talk about in this video. Yeah, so that's the video, and those are my thoughts. As always, they are indeed a jumbled, incoherent, disjointed mess, but what about you? What are some of your favorite ice levels, and what are your thoughts on ice levels in general? Personally, I'm starting to think that I might actually like ice levels, and it has been a devastating blow to my sense of self. But I mean, it's not that big of a deal. We all have to have an existential crisis eventually. Anyway, I truly hope that you all have a wonderful holiday season, regardless of what holidays you do and do not celebrate. I will see you all right before New Year's, and until then, try not to get into too many arguments with your relatives while you're celebrating the holidays. Except for your crazy Uncle Joe. He absolutely deserves to be yelled at, and I am counting on you to verbally beat the shit out of him.